Well, coastal First Nations leaders say that their meeting with the Prime Minister went well yesterday.
We heard directly from the Prime Minister that his government will seek our free, prior, and informed consent regarding any proposed projects in our territories.
That is Coastal First Nations President Marilyn Slett, and she says the nations are ready to facilitate major projects that are built in partnership with Indigenous peoples. But their support of the oil tanker ban, they say, is steadfast.
The position that we have on the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act is really grounded on, these projects that we see that have been greenlit or about to be greenlit, and that we can't see or support in any way oil tankers on top of that.
Again, Coastal First Nations President Marilyn Slett speaking yesterday. Now, this meeting came after the federal government signed a memorandum of understanding with Alberta, which included a path forward for a possible oil pipeline and the lifting of an oil tanker ban along BC's north coast. The pipeline itself would run from Alberta to the coast in northern BC. For more on this, we have reached Regional Chief Terry Teegee of the Assembly of First Nations. Good morning to you, Chief.
Good morning.
Coastal First Nations say that the Prime Minister, he showed respect. He said he would seek free, prior, and informed consent on proposed projects. What is your read of what that means?
Well, I certainly hope that he is held to his word. I think what it means is that, First Nations, whether it's a Coastal First Nations or any other First Nations that would be in the right of way of any proposed pipeline would have an ability to make a decision on a proposed pipeline, especially a pipeline that is in the northern reaches of British Columbia that would have to transect and perhaps have tankers in the northwest coast. So I think that means that they would have an ability to make a decision and perhaps even more importantly, make a decision on those proposed projects.
Do you feel like you've seen this movie before with the Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline proposal, and which in fact prompted the moratorium on tanker traffic?
Well, there's always been some sort of discussion now going back to the 1960s, 70s about a proposed pipeline. I guess I'm not surprised that, 20 years later when Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline was proposed and started kicking tires, I suppose, in 2005, and ultimately the demise of that proposal happened I believe, in November 2016. I'm not surprised that there's another kick at the can, if you will. I think here now it's even more challenging considering that, the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples is law federally and provincially.
The tanker ban that's currently in place, it basically goes from, Bella Coola all the way to Stewart, and covers Haida Gwaii as well. It doesn't prevent tanker traffic from traveling through that area. It prevents tankers from loading, unloading, or stopping. Is that correct?
As far as I know, it's about 100-kilometer area that is off the shores of British Columbia. So there's a real wide area. Beyond that, there are tankers passing by from Alaska going south to the United States from Alaska. So I don't believe there's any tankers bigger than the ones that you see on the news.
Right.
But there's some tankers that are smaller than 12,500 tons or something like that.
Okay.
So I think it's smaller tankers that are in the area, but I think they're still cleaning up some of the areas in Prince William Sound in Alaska that we all know ran aground by the Exxon Valdez in 1989. So I think that this is a real issue that many First Nations have.
Is it not a very different world when it comes to marine navigation than it was in 1989? Tankers are all double hulled now. You have satellite navigation that was not available before. There have been real advances in that. Also, in the Exxon Valdez, there was evidence that the captain, Hazelwood, may have been drunk at the time of that accident.
Well, there has been some accidents in the area that we call the Hackett Strait with some smaller tankers running aground, as well as we've seen some ferries and other boats that have capsized. And these ones are smaller, and you would think that would have more ability to deal with situations. But the Hecate Strait is a very difficult place to
Mm.
pass through. So I think it's really important to understand that. And if we're dealing with massive tankers, it's going to be even more challenging. So I think it's one of the worst areas in Canada in regards to navigate any boat. So I think it's going to be very challenging to have any tankers in the area, especially one of that size.
So, with coastal First Nations reaffirming their support of the oil tanker ban, and if the Prime Minister is making a commitment to, abide by their wishes, where does that leave Alberta and Danielle Smith's hope for a bitumen pipeline to the BC coast?
I guess it's still, I suppose, a pipe dream for Danielle Smith, and I think it's very important to understand that. I think whatever proposal she has, it shouldn't involve the Northwest Coast. So I understand that the MOU is to look at some sort of pipeline going to Tidewater, but certainly this is one proposal that won't fit her needs.
There are, of course, projects that are still being considered for fast tracking by Mark Carney's Major Projects Office. And Coastal First Nations Vice President Jason Alsop spoke about the need to prepare for those.
Recent announcements around expanding LNG projects and critical minerals. We need to make sure that we're prepared for that, and that as each one of these projects goes through its process, that the impacts of shipping, the cumulative effects, coastal erosion, impacts on species and habitat, our communities, our culture is all factored into how we're analyzing this and investing and preparing for that increase in traffic.
So that is Jason Alsop, the Vice President of the Coastal First Nations. So the Prime Minister's office says a number of commitments were made at that meeting yesterday connected to that increased traffic concern, and they include a marine traffic risk assessment study, as well as extending the leases for 2 emergency towing vessels. How adequate do you think, Chief, that response is from the federal government?
Well, I think this is one of those discussions that were had with the First Nations, the coastal First Nations yesterday, and President Alsop is right. I think one thing that we should be drawing our attention to is actual projects that are in the queue, if you will. That many First Nations need to have free, prior, and informed discussions and decisions in regards to many of the perhaps LNG projects, or also there's many projects that involves the mining. So these are projects that are based on reality, not on pipe dreams. So I think we should be concentrating on those. Those are the ones that need attention. Those are ones that need the resources to make a decision on, and not this idea of some sort of pipeline in the north, or some sort of discussions on tanker traffic in the northwest coast.
Chief Teegee, it's very good to hear you this morning. Thank you for the time.
You're welcome.
And take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
That is Regional Chief Terry Teegee of the BC Assembly of First Nations.